On March 3, 2025, a white Toyota Camry Hybrid pulled into my bay just after lunch. It was driven by a woman who had already been to 2 other shops that week. She was not panicking. She had moved past panic. She was resigned. Both shops told her the same thing: hybrid battery replacement, somewhere between $3,000 to $4,500, depending on whether she went OEM or rebuilt. She handed me a printed quote and asked if there was any way this was not true. I asked her 3 questions. I looked at her dash. I plugged in my scanner. 20 minutes later, I handed her back the quote and told her to throw it away. Today, I am revealing the 3 signs that actually tell you a Toyota hybrid battery is dying, why most drivers miss them entirely, and why so many people pay for replacements they never needed. The hybrid battery system is one of the most misunderstood components in modern automotive history. That misunderstanding is costing drivers thousands of dollars every single year. I have been working on hybrids for over 15 years. I watched the first-generation Prius become a curiosity, then a phenomenon, then a used car market staple. I watched Camry hybrids and Highlander hybrids and RAV4 hybrids quietly take over driveways across the country. And I watched the fear around hybrid batteries grow into something almost irrational. Drivers treat the battery like a ticking clock. They assume degradation is inevitable and catastrophic. They hear the word hybrid and brace themselves for the bill that is supposedly always coming. That fear is not entirely wrong. The battery does age. It does degrade. It will eventually need attention. But the timing of that reality is almost never what drivers assume. And the signs that people think mean the battery is dying are very often signs of something else entirely. Here is what most people do not understand about Toyota hybrid systems. The high-voltage battery pack in a Toyota hybrid is not a simple device. It is a sophisticated assembly of individual cells, a battery management system that monitors every one of those cells independently, a cooling system designed specifically to regulate battery temperature, and a control network that communicates constantly with the engine, the inverter, and the regenerative braking system. Every part of that network affects what the driver sees and feels. And when any part of that network misbehaves, it can produce symptoms that look exactly like a dying battery but have nothing to do with the battery at all. I have seen cooling fans clogged with debris produce the same warning lights as genuine cell failure. I have seen 12-volt auxiliary battery weakness trigger hybrid system warnings that sent drivers straight to dealerships quoting full-pack replacements. I have seen software adaptations drift so far from baseline that the system behaved erratically despite a perfectly healthy high-voltage pack. And I have seen genuine battery degradation that was manageable, partial, and far cheaper to address than a full replacement if caught and diagnosed correctly. This is why the 3 signs matter so much. Not because they guarantee the battery is failing, but because they are the signals that separate a real problem from a ghost, a genuine decline from a manageable issue, and a necessary repair from an expensive mistake. Once you know what to actually look for, you stop reacting to fear and start responding to data. And data is always cheaper than panic. The first sign is a change in how the battery charges and depletes during normal driving. You will see a shrinking range in the energy gauge, and the engine will engage more often at speeds and situations where it previously stayed off. Toyota hybrids are designed around a specific behavior. At low speeds, with light throttle, and in stop-and-go traffic, the system defaults to electric drive whenever possible. The high-voltage battery supplies the traction motor, the engine stays off, and fuel consumption drops to near zero. Drivers who have owned a Toyota hybrid for any length of time develop a feel for this. They know when the engine should kick on and when it should stay quiet. They know roughly how long the battery gauge holds at a certain level during a typical commute. They know the rhythm of the system. When a hybrid battery begins to genuinely degrade, that rhythm changes. The usable capacity of the pack shrinks. The battery management system, always working to protect cell health, tightens the operating window even further. The system becomes more conservative. It calls on the engine sooner. It charges the battery more aggressively and to a narrower range. The driver notices the engine runs more often in situations where it used to stay off. The energy gauge swings more dramatically between charge and discharge. The car feels less like an electric vehicle at low speeds and more like a conventional car that occasionally gets a small boost. This sign is real. But here is what makes it tricky. The exact same behavior appears when the 12-volt auxiliary battery is weak, when the hybrid battery cooling system is restricted, or when changes in driving pattern cause adaptive calibration to shift. A driver who recently moved to a hotter climate, started taking longer highway trips, or experienced a warm summer after years of mild weather may see this change without a single degraded cell in the pack. The cooling fan on most Toyota hybrids runs on a specific circuit and draws air through a vent often located in the rear passenger cabin. That vent can be blocked by cargo, floor mats pushed too far back, or debris that accumulates over years. When the battery runs hotter than designed, the management system reduces available capacity to protect the cells. The behavior looks exactly like degradation. The cells can be fine, they are just hot. So the first sign is real when it is accompanied by other evidence. On its own, it is a starting point. It is a reason to investigate, not a reason to open your wallet. The second sign is harder to dismiss and harder to fake. It is the triangle warning light, specifically the red triangle with an exclamation point, appearing with a hybrid system warning and a reduction in power that is sudden and noticeable. Toyota hybrid systems are designed with a very specific failure response. When the battery management system detects a problem it cannot safely compensate for, it does not just log a code. It reduces system capability deliberately, and it tells the driver through the warning system. The red triangle combined with a hybrid system message is the car's way of saying something in the high voltage system needs attention now. This is a legitimate warning. But legitimate does not mean worst case. The hybrid battery pack in a Toyota is made up of individual cells or modules depending on the generation. The management system monitors them all. When one module or one group of cells drops significantly out of balance with the others, the warning triggers. That failing module is affecting the overall system's ability to operate safely. But it can be one module, not the whole pack. Replacing one or a small group of modules is dramatically less expensive than replacing the entire assembly. Many independent hybrid specialists do this routinely. Dealerships, working from flat-rate pricing structures, often do not offer this option. They replace the pack. The second thing this warning can indicate is a voltage imbalance caused by a weak 12-volt battery. This is the single most common misdiagnosis in Toyota hybrid ownership. The 12-volt auxiliary battery in a Toyota hybrid is not a backup system. It is the control backbone. Every module, every controller, every piece of the management network runs on 12-volt power. When that battery ages and voltage drops during startup or operation, the hybrid management system can receive corrupted signals. It interprets those corrupted signals as system faults. The red triangle comes on. The hybrid system message appears. The car goes into protective mode. The driver goes to the dealership. The dealership quotes a high-voltage battery. The 12-volt battery, which costs less than $200, is never tested. I have fixed this exact situation more times than I can count. The warning clears. The system returns to normal. The driver leaves having spent a fraction of what they were quoted. This does not mean every triangle warning is a cheap fix. It means the triangle warning is a signal that demands proper diagnosis, not an automatic death sentence for the battery. The third sign is the most subtle and for that reason, the most dangerous. It is a genuine and measurable drop in fuel economy that is not explained by season, driving habits, or maintenance history. Toyota hybrids are exceptionally consistent fuel economy machines under normal conditions. Owners develop accurate expectations. They know what their Prius gets on the highway versus the city. They know how winter affects consumption. They know what a long road trip does to the numbers compared to a suburban commute. When fuel economy drops significantly and persistently without an obvious cause, it means the hybrid system is working harder than it should. Working harder almost always traces back to reduced battery capability. Here is the chain of events. A degraded battery cannot accept or deliver charge as efficiently. The engine must run more frequently and for longer durations to compensate. More engine runtime means more fuel consumed. The driver notices the tank emptying faster, sometimes significantly faster. And unlike the other two signs, this one does not trigger warning lights. There is no code, there is no message. The car just quietly burns more fuel while the driver blames gas prices or road conditions or bad luck. This sign is important because it reveals degradation that is real and progressing, but has not yet triggered the safety thresholds that cause the system to warn you. It is the early window, the window where options are widest and costs are lowest. If you address the underlying cause at this stage, whether it is a cooling system cleaning, a module replacement, or a software reset that forces the system to recalibrate, you may extend the usable life of the pack by years. But if you wait, if you assume the fuel economy drop is something else or accept it as the new normal, the degradation continues. More cells fall out of balance. More modules reach the threshold. Eventually, the warning appears. And by that point, the options have narrowed. Now, everything has to come together clearly, because knowing the three signs is only useful if you know what to do when you see them. The first thing you do when any of these signs appears is test the 12-volt battery, not the high-voltage pack, the small one under the hood or in the trunk. You test it with a proper load tester, not just a voltage check. A 12-volt battery can read 12.4 volts at rest and collapse under load. If that battery is more than 3 years old or has never been tested, replace it and observe the system for a week before drawing any conclusions about the high-voltage pack. The second thing you do is check the cooling fan and the rest of the battery cooling system. On most Toyota hybrids, the fan is accessible and audible. You should hear it running when the battery is under load in warm conditions. If it is silent, restricted, or weak, address that before doing anything else. Clean the intake vent, check the fan operation. The battery may be perfectly healthy and simply running too hot to perform correctly. The third thing you do is get a proper hybrid system scan, not a generic OBD2 scan that only reads basic engine codes. Use a scanner that reads Toyota hybrid-specific data, individual module voltages, state of health for each cell group, battery temperature history, and fault codes from the hybrid control system. This data tells you whether the pack is uniformly degraded, which would indicate normal age-related decline across all cells, or whether specific modules have failed while the rest remain healthy. That distinction determines the repair path entirely. If the modules are uniformly degraded and the pack has over 150,000 miles, a replacement conversation becomes legitimate. Toyota and Panasonic have improved pack durability significantly across generations, and many owners push well past 200,000 miles without intervention. But it does happen. When it does, you have options: OEM new, dealer remanufactured, third-party remanufactured, or module-level replacement from a specialist. The right choice depends on how long you plan to keep the vehicle, your budget, and the overall condition of the car. If specific modules have failed while others are healthy, you are looking at a targeted repair that a good, independent hybrid specialist can perform. This is not rare. It is not a shortcut. It is the correct repair for the correct diagnosis. And it can save you $2,000 or more compared to a full-pack swap. A real case illustrates this. A woman who came in that Tuesday afternoon with a $4,000 quote had a 2017 Camry Hybrid with 112,000 miles. Her 12-volt battery had never been replaced. It tested at 40% of rated capacity under load. Her hybrid cooling fan was running at reduced speed because a partially obstructed intake vent was restricting airflow. Her high-voltage modules, when scanned individually, showed no significant imbalance. The system was compensating for a hot, under-supported 12-volt battery by reducing available power and running the engine more aggressively. Every symptom matched a dying high-voltage battery. Nothing was wrong with the high-voltage battery. A new 12-volt battery, a cleaning of the intake path, and a recalibration cycle. That was her repair. She drove out spending less than $200. The car behaved normally within 2 days of driving, as the system relearned under stable conditions. That is why these 3 signs matter, not because they always mean disaster, but because they are the signals that tell you something needs investigation. How you respond to that signal determines whether you spend $200 or $4,000. And now you know the difference. If this changed how you think about your hybrid, hit like so more drivers see it before they hand over a check they never needed to write. Subscribe if you want the kind of knowledge that keeps you in control instead of at the mercy of the next estimate. Drop a comment if you have ever been quoted a hybrid battery replacement that turned out to be something simpler. Those stories are exactly why this channel exists. The most expensive repair is not the one that fixes your car. It is the one that fixes something that was never broken.